Did you know you can support the Technology Show when you shop at Amazon.com? Become a friend of the show by starting your shopping at thetechnologyshow.com/shop. It's Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2013. The year is winding down. Christmas is getting closer. My goose is getting fat. I'm Matthew Teachy.
I am not the goose. I'm Heath Mulligan.
And I'm Tony Casey. Hey, welcome to the Technology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 228.
So speaking of big fat geese,
Be careful.
you guys have a good Thanksgiving.
We did, very, very much so.
Yes.
Taking any sports? I mean, like any injuries due to taking
I
any
did.
sports?
I had to go to the chiropractor yesterday.
Why?
I said, man, my hip is killing me. I have shooting pain down my leg. And I've been going to the chiropractor now for about 6 months. I've had some other issues. He said, "What'd you do?" I said, "Well, all I did over Thanksgiving was sit on the couch and watch football." He said, "There you go."
Yeah, so now you have this injury due to watching football.
Yes.
Now, Matthew and I are talking about the injury that you've sustained because you type on an iPad. You found a story where there's actually an injury.
What's that called again? iPad neck or something.
It's iPad neck, yeah. It's where it's any electronic device where you if you notice you typing on and your head. Just
And you've
goes
got
up.
this, right?
Yes, I am recovered from that now.
Oh, okay.
Dude, that was a serious deal. I was losing all feeling in my arm. You know, I also lost all feeling at the end of that Alabama-Auburn game. That was great.
Hey, listen, the sports play of the weekend, but probably the whole college year.
Oh, the century, and Clemson lost. So, on to today's show. You know, so many of you, we had Black Friday and we had Cyber Monday, and so many of you have been helpful, helping the show out. As you heard at the top of the show, you can go to thetechnologyshow.com, click on the Amazon link, or if you use Google Chrome, you can go to the Chrome store and you can get the Technology Show official extension. Again, we want to thank Zach Burnham for that. You can go there. You see let me move over so my white shirt It's techallo.gy/Chrome.
That'll take you right to the extension, and you can.
And the purchase of the week this week, I lost out. I purchased a lot of things, but a Kindle Fire HDX 7-inch. So thank you.
And yesterday it was crazy. They had that thing for $179.
$50 off.
Yeah, $50
It's a great
off.
deal. I didn't do it,
Super
but
deal.
I wanted to.
Well, they started out the day having $50 off the Kindle Fire HD. That sold out
Put it at
fast.
$100, didn't it?
It was less than that. It was like $89.
Oh, man.
Yeah, $89 for the Kindle Fire HD, brand new.
See, they're using that thing as a loss leader. What they're saying is, if we get this into people's hands, they're going to buy Kindle books. They're going to buy Amazon Music. They're going to buy movies. It's so smart, and just keep it up, guys.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but, we were with family, and I literally had my laptop open the entire time of Thanksgiving on Amazon, counting down all these deals. I would set the alarm on my phone and be like, oh, I don't want that, but there was so much stuff that I had no interest in, but it was
Yeah,
cool.
well, thanks everybody though, legitimately for using our affiliate link because,
Absolutely.
For an example, somebody bought that Kindle. I'm not going to say who, but somebody bought the Kindle Fire HDX through our affiliate link, and we made $7 off that.
Awesome.
$7 comes to us because of that, and that's $7 that we'll spend
on a trip to Hawaii. No.
to keep this show free. And another way we're going to keep this show free
is for you to consider sponsoring an episode of the Technology Show. If you're looking for an effective way to get word out about your organization, business, or nonprofit, why not consider sponsoring an episode of the Technology Show? When you sponsor the show, we'll feature your brand right on the front page of our site as well as inside the episode that you've sponsored. This is what that means. Your investment literally lives on for years because that is embedded right within the episode. For instance, one of the best episodes we've ever had in terms of hits is Mark Batterson. The first time we interviewed him, we're still getting hits on that 2 years later. If you had sponsored that show, your sponsorship would still show up every time someone watches that. For more details, you can go to thetechnologyshow.com/sponsor. Our guest today is Reverend Timothy Dean Casey. Tim Casey is an ordained minister in the United Methodist Church. He's been active in ministry for almost 30 years. He currently pastors the Good Shepherd United Methodist Church in Bartlett, Illinois. He's married to Becky, and together they have 3 wonderful children, Sarah, Caleb, and Eli. Tim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be there.
Man, Casey, that name sounds so familiar.
Yes. Yeah, very familiar. So for those that may not know, Tim is my brother, and you can see who Tim always says he's the keeper of the hair.
Yeah.
I am.
It's a do-wrong.
Yeah. Well, we have a sister that we refer to as the keeper of information.
Right.
And the keeper of secrets. And Tabitha certainly is that. But, I'm certainly in this family the keeper of the hair.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Well, Tim,
Tony is the keeper of personality, however, so that works out.
Tim, so having you on the show, Heath and I should be able to just glean a lot of great information that we haven't had to have before. So, I mean, I'd hate to go off script here, Tony, but before we jump into the interview, give us the dirt on your little brother.
Yeah.
Oh, where to begin? Oh, my.
Be kind, Tim.
You know, one of the amusing things about his baldness is the kind of time he used to spend in front of the mirror, combing it when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be the reason why he lost his hair. That, and there was a friend of ours, a pastor, who was also, follically challenged, and and Tony one time gave him a comb with no teeth in it. And he warned him then that this would come back.
So this is the Lord's retribution on Tony.
Oh, that's right.
Isn't there a story in the Bible about a great prophet?
The equivalent of the she-bears coming out of the woods and attacking.
That's what I'm saying. The same curse has befallen Tony.
So you see right now, I mean, the risk you take when you have family on the show, okay?
That's right. That's right.
It is.
I had no, Tim, we've gotten messages from you to the show, and I had no idea you were a pastor in the United Methodist Church.
Oh, really? What did you think I did?
He thought never mind.
I just knew you were a great American. That's all I knew.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I realize announcing that I'm United Methodist brings up all kinds of red flags for everybody. I am Christian.
That's awesome.
All right, Tim.
I believe in Jesus and everything. I mean, it's really something. I've read the Bible, some, and
but which do you like better, the Bible or Aesop's Fables?
Yeah, it's you might be surprised to find how many United Methodists are in fact saved. It would probably just startle you.
That's funny.
All right, listen, let's jump in here. I've told our listeners building up to this show, probably 2-3 years ago, I mentioned to you that, I don't know, about 4 years in a row, I had listened to A Christmas Carol when we got close to Christmas. And you looked at me and said, well, I've been doing that for about 19 years. And this was 2 or 3 years ago. And even in our pre-show here, I mean, we were doing the sound test. You're able to, out of the prologue of that book, you're able to quote like just large sections. So let's start first by, how did you start doing this? Why did you start reading it? How did it become a tradition?
Well, I've always liked A Christmas Carol, and when Tony and I were young, we lived in a trailer that had rooms built onto it. As I think about it now, it must have been the silliest thing anyone drove by could see. Was this, and I just have this recollection as a kid being up late one night and watching the old black and white movie of A Christmas Carol, and how much I loved it as a kid. And I've probably seen it once or twice after that as I was growing up. And One day I was in a library, or actually, excuse me, a bookstore, and I saw A Christmas Carol, and I thought, hey, you know what? I've never read the book. I've only seen the movies, and so I decided to get it, and I was just captivated by it. It became uh, just almost instantly my favorite book, and Charles Dickens, one of my favorite authors. I was astonished by the social commentary,
Yeah.
by the description of Scrooge, by the redemption of Scrooge, by the description of the ghosts. I mean, all of those things really got a hold of me. What some of your viewers probably don't know is that I am a quadriplegic. And so it's difficult for me to pick up a book and read it. And thank goodness for computers and a variety of other ways in which I can get a hold of media. And one of the ways I do that is through audiobooks. I have a subscription to audible.com, and which is owned by Amazon, by the by. You need to find out if you guys are getting any credit for that. In any event, and so I have listened to it. And over the past, I would say, just before I moved to Nebraska in '94, I think that's the year I started reading it.
Okay.
And it's been every year since then. And so every year I read it, I listen to it, I probably watch at least one or two versions of the movies every year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And what I've done is I've said I won't touch it until after Thanksgiving, and I won't pick it up again after January 1st. But I have probably gone through A Christmas Carol a couple of hundred times now, just because I've done studies on them. We did an Advent study here at my church on A Christmas Carol last year. You know, and of course, we're all in this boat. We all know somebody who wants to write a book. Everybody seems to want to write a book. And if I was ever to do so, I think I would like to write a commentary on A Christmas Carol and its social commentary, as well as its theological themes, Christian themes even.
Yeah. Now, Tim, while Dickens made no claim of Christianity, there are clearly, Christian themes throughout this story. So could you give our viewers an example of one or two of these Christian themes we're talking about?
Well, you're correct. I do not know of any source where Dickens came right out and said, I am a Christian. I think there is clear evidence that he believed in God, and he believed in Jesus Christ. He seemed to be particularly impressed when he came to the United States the first time with the Unitarians, but that was mostly because of their social involvement. And toward the end of his life, he did attend an Anglican church regularly and prayed every morning and every night. Okay. And I do not have a reference for that, but I've read that in. So to say that, it's not up to us to decide whether he was Christian or not, but I think that he would have avoided saying I am Christian because he was so disappointed with what he saw in the church. There are numerous things in A Christmas Carol that are reflective of his belief in God and his dismay with what the church represented in 19th century England. Let's see. Well, you have at the very beginning, you have the ghost. of Christmas Past. And this ghost is an enlightenment. It is a remarkable description of the past. When you read the book, you find that this ghost becomes large and small, and he's bright, and he looks young, and he looks old, and he's all of these things, but none of them at the same time. And that often describes the past. And when he takes Scrooge back to his childhood, what you see, I think, are a combination of loneliness and redemption. He had experienced the loneliness of being left out while others were going home to visit family, to celebrate the season, and then redemption when his sister comes to bring him home, and how much better father is. He finds out about capitalism. He likes it, but he also sees the generosity of his employer, Fezziwig. He just really, provides him with a witness of, generosity is more important than the bottom line. He treated people like family rather than simply employees. And in the encounter before Marley at the very beginning, the description of Scrooge is that he is this sinner, and it actually calls him that. That he is hard bitten in every way, and then also that he is that he has this. He has this mantle around the fireplace, and on there are Cain's and Abel's, and Abraham and Sarah's, and there are Sheba's, and a variety of other things that he describes that obviously he's had to have learned either from reading the Bible or from a class somewhere. And the biggest, I think that one of the most amusing and yet challenging moments is when the ghost of Christmas Present is challenged by Scrooge. And Scrooge says, you would have them cease all activities on the seventh day, when it is perhaps the only day that they have to do much of anything. And the ghost responds with, I'm the one who's preventing these folks from doing what they need to do on a Sunday. And Scrooge's statement is, well, there are people who are doing it in your family's name, a kind of reference to God. And what you end up having that ghost say is that, yes, there are many who claim to speak on our part, and we don't know them at all. They really aren't speaking for us. They're speaking for themselves, and they're making an assumption.
Yeah, Tim, you and I had a discussion on the phone last week. The Ghost of Christmas Present is kind of a type of Christ, in that story. And you see the parallels between Jesus and the Pharisees in that discourse between he and Scrooge at that point about when they're talking about the Sabbath. You see some parallels there.
Yes.
Yeah, where the Ghost of Christmas Present, his response back is, wait, that's not tied to me. And you can see that when Jesus heals on the Sabbath, how the religious people are all been out of shape. You broke the law. Well, the law that you have constructed, yes, but where in the world does it say a man can't do good on the Sabbath? I mean, again, you see these parallels here between the gospel and the type of Christ.
Well, for a great many people in his era, in this industrial age and Enlightenment, capitalism was everywhere, and things were growing in leaps and bounds. People worked, 6 days a week, and the only day they ever had off, and they would work from, early in the morning till late in the evening, and the only day they had off was Sunday. And a law had been introduced, and I don't know that it was ever passed, but a law was introduced to Parliament that all stores and all activities were to be closed on Sunday. And Dickens saw this, and he was enraged because, in his thinking, this was just another slapdown of the poor who worked 6 days a week, who worked, 16 hours a day, and the only time they could get out to do anything, to have any freedom, to have, any activity, family time, grocery shop, you name it, was on Sunday. And so, Dickens took that introduction of the law into his story about 10 or 12 years later in writing A Christmas Carol.
Well, we flowed into the next question, and that is, for Dickens, it's not just in this story, but you see this in Oliver Twist and other of his writings, that he's very concerned about the poor, and I think that for many of us, we don't understand the historic significance of that, and especially, and I've said this before, in evangelicalism, which is dominated by, upper middle class, even beyond that, we have this notion that poverty is simply tied to what one does. So if one does the right thing, one is not poor. If one does the wrong thing, one is poor. And yet, isn't this part of a kind of a mentality that Dickens is fighting against in his particular day?
Oh, certainly. And it astonishes me that we have this wonderful book in the Old Testament, the book of Job, which makes it clear that righteous people suffer. And yet we are convinced that Jesus came to make us healthy and wealthy. Dickens' own life is a story of rags to riches. When he was young, he had to leave school to get a job because his father was thrown into debtor's prison. And after he got out of prison, Dickens was able to go back to school. And he's living, in a time following and in addition to the Enlightenment, which emphasized intellectualism, it emphasized individualism, and the Industrial Revolution, which also promoted individualism in entrepreneurship, but also, the overall value of wealth and power, and capitalism gone wild. There were many who have accused Dickens of being a socialist because of some of the stuff he said. I don't think he was. What he recognized was that both the government and the church had the wherewithal to make a difference in the lives of people who were working hard to get enough to eat for a day. And that's very similar to the kind of people Jesus was dealing with in his day.
Right.
Those people, those thousands who came to him for bread, we know that the first time it was perhaps a surprise, but they continue following him because they want more bread.
Right.
Who's to blame them? Because often they only made enough money to buy food or what they needed for that one day.
Yeah.
And that was true for the poor in Scrooge in Dickens' day, and it's true today for a lot of people who are poor. They are fortunate if they get what they need for today, if they get one square meal today. And so you see these kind of parallels. I am convinced that Dickens had an intimate knowledge of the Gospels and of Jesus and of what was required of those who had any kind of Christian conscience. And you note that when the two gentlemen come into Scrooge's place and to ask for a donation to give some meat and heat drink for those at that time of year, he names the union houses and the prisons, and he looks at his tax dollars and says, yeah, well, if they need something, they can go to those places. And the response then is, well, some would rather die. And Scrooge's statement is, well, let them then. Let them die and decrease the surplus population. And I love it when the Ghost of Christmas Present throws that back into his face when they're talking about Tiny Tim.
Yeah, right.
And there's something about this story, every cripple you ever see on TV or in a book since this time seems to be named Tim or Timmy. I don't know what that is, but
So what do you think Dickens is saying to, in all these illustrations, what do you think he's trying to say to the wealthy of his day?
Well, I think to both the wealthy and the religious, he's trying to tell them, to help them see beyond their own noses, to see beyond their wealth, that they have managed to get to where they are, and in truth, they have probably not worked any harder at doing that than those who work in the mines or in the foundries have worked. And that he did not like religiosity. I mean, he disliked religion for the same reasons we dislike it. We despise the hypocrisy and the the kind of superiority that people can begin to put on because of this relationship they have with God, where we know that if anything, it should be the thing that humbles us most. We've got what we've not earned. In salvation, well, for those of us who are middle class or upper middle class or whatever it may be, in many ways we have gotten what we've gotten because of certain advantages that have come our way, opportunities that some people don't get. And I think we should be in the business of creating opportunities, not just giving away stuff, but creating opportunities.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of the book we covered, When Helping Hurts, because that's part of what they get into in that book. Another thing I would say about the wealthy, Tim, again, you and I had this discussion last week, that also Dickens seems to be getting to this thing that there's more that measures a man or a woman at the end of their life. And one of the great scenes is with Marley's ghost. Just before Marley leaves, he takes Scrooge over to the window and he shows him this scene. And you see this poor mother, and she's huddled up with this child, and it's cold, inclement weather. And you see what Scrooge sees are all these people trying to help. But the woman doesn't see them. They're in another realm. She cannot see it. And Scrooge is perplexed. Well, what's this about? And Marley says they seek to intervene for good, but they can't. And so they spent their whole lives amassing this wealth, thinking, okay, this is the measure of who I am. But when it was all said and done, when life was over, it meant nothing. That they had worked they had spent all their time doing this
Yeah.
when they should have been concerned about humankind and reaching out in compassion towards them.
Yeah, note Jesus' illustration of the rich man and Lazarus.
Ah,
I
Very
preached
good.
from that not long ago, and I used, it was right, in fact, the Sunday following our conversation, Tony, that in Dickens' story, what you have are these people who seem to have been stripped of everything material, and all that has remained is their humanity. And it is in their basic humanity that they notice this suffering. They're fettered by these chains that represented their lives before they had died, and they're made up of purses and safes and money boxes and all of these things. People who were just so self-indulgent that they dare not notice anyone else. And in death, it is. Can there be any better description, I think, of something hellacious than to have this incredible desire, overwhelming desire, to do the right thing, the good thing, and have lost the ability to do so.
yeah.
Such frustration. The one difference is, of course, the rich man in the story with Lazarus. The rich man continues to be kind of self-centered, and that he asks Abraham to have Lazarus bring him over some water.
Yeah.
But I think that in this life, we can, without question, create such a great gulf between ourselves and those to whom Jesus said we were to respond. And I have people even in my own congregation who debate over, spirituality versus social justice. But when when John the Baptist's disciples come to Jesus to find out if Jesus is indeed who they thought he was, his response was, go back and tell John that the poor are hearing the good news, the blind can see, the lame can walk. And that was the answer to John the Baptist, of that the gospel is not either or,
Right.
it is both.
Yep.
It's got to be both.
Right. Yeah.
So
Now, one of the things that's been going on in the chat room today, Tim, is we've been talking about all the film versions of A Christmas Carol, and a couple of questions. What is your favorite or favorites, and where do you think my portrayal of Jacob Marley in the Golden Grove version of the sequel to A Christmas Carol, where do you think that ranks among the all-time great?
I hardly know how to respond to that. I'd say that there's a close contest between the Jim Carrey movie that came out just a couple of years ago.
Well done.
In that movie, the ghosts are scary.
Yeah.
Especially the last one. And there's a very Wesleyan thing I want to say about the third ghost. If I don't get, I hope I get a chance to say before we're done here. But the one with what's his first name, Tony?
Albert Sims. Alistair Sims. Yes.
Alistair Sims. And that's my favorite.
Yes, 1951 version.
And that's the one I was watching late at night when I was a kid and fell in love with the story.
Yes.
Is that one with Alistair Sims. And I've got it, and I have several. I have
Well, I just need to break in and ask,
Patrick
where does
Stewart and
the Muppet
Mickey Mouse and
where
all
does the
those.
Muppet Christmas Carol fall in
Hi
there?
ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the part there, and Tiny Tim didn't die. Aw, isn't that swell?
So
I like that version of it. There really aren't many bad versions. And of course, there are the parodies. Scrooged is one of those with Bill Murray, which tells the same story, of course, and it's considerably more amusing, perhaps, than the original.
How about An American Christmas Carol with Henry Winkler? Have you seen that?
No, I'm afraid I have not.
Okay.
the Fonz?
An American Christmas Carol.
Hey.
Yeah, 1979, I think it is, An American Christmas Carol. And it's the same story. It's just an American version of it, and Henry Winkler plays the Scrooge character. Yeah.
Well, ones that were mentioned.
What about Scrooge McDuck?
We talked about
Yes.
we talked about
Yes.
Mickey Mouse, the George C. Scott version, the Patrick Stewart version. I've seen that one.
Yes.
When the year the Patrick Stewart version came, it came on TNT, and we actually used a sermon series that went along with it, and that was the first time in our church that I had to sit in the choir loft because I had the computer hooked up to the projector, and I'm trying to play the DVD at just the right time, and it was probably the most nerve-wracking month of my life. Just trying to get all that to work. But I do like the Patrick Stewart. Like you said, there's not many of them that I don't like. I haven't seen the Jim Carrey version. We just recorded it yesterday, so I'm hoping we can watch it this afternoon with the kids.
To me, what's good about the Jim Carrey version is if you've read this story, and Tim, I'm interested in your input here. It seems to me the one that follows the story the closest. Now, every version takes some license with creativity. But of all the movies I watch, the reason Alistair Sims in the 1951 version is my favorite is he is my favorite Scrooge.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
See, you talk about
now. One of the things with the animation is that you're able to do some things with animation that I don't know what else, how you could ever put it into anything like live action.
Yeah.
But of course, with today's trickery in the way we film, certainly we could do some things in movies that could not have been done in 51. Right. There's also a 1930s version of
I've seen that.
A Christmas Carol, which I like well enough.
There's a silent movie version.
Yes, in fact, it's only just a couple minutes long.
Yep.
And I have it, and you could go to YouTube and find it.
Archive.org has it too. It's 12 minutes, Tim. The whole play is 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So were you disappointed with Marley and Me? Because that's not a sequel to Christmas Carol. I was disappointed.
What, Marley and Me?
Marley and Me. I thought it was, a sequel, but it's about a dog. Who would have known?
It is about a dog. I'm sorry to say. No, I've not seen that.
And we want to apologize for Heath, too.
Yeah.
No, I thought you probably would. It's okay. So there are a couple things I wanted to say, I think are particularly important about the story, is that at the very beginning when he says Marley is dead, he goes to great lengths to make it clear that Marley is dead. Yeah. And I've used this in an illustration where he says, if you cannot know that Marley is dead, nothing wonderful will come of this story. And think about that within the context of our faith concerning Jesus Christ. Jesus is dead to begin with. And I realize it would be perhaps irreverent at some point to say that Jesus was as dead as a doornail. But since there have been throughout the history of Christianity, those who have challenged the notion of Jesus' actual death, whether that be the Gnostics who say that Jesus was never human, or it's been certain kinds of neo-Christianity that has suggested that Jesus never really died in the whole event. The fact is that Jesus did die. Right. If he wasn't completely dead, there would be nothing to say of his sacrifice or to say of his resurrection.
Right.
And so I really enjoy the emphasis of Marley's death, and yet communicating to Scrooge. And the other thing is what is said of the future by Ghost of Christmas to Come, Christmases to Come. He has no face. He's a dark character. And I think people have tended to think of that, or think of him as being spooky, as being the most frightening of all, partly because Scrooge himself says,
Right.
that he dreaded encountering him most of all. But what I like about that particular ghost is that having no face, being dark, mysterious, even being skeletal, I don't think is so frightening. I think that instead it shows us that the future has yet to be written. A skeleton becomes a frame upon which flesh will be built. A face will eventually emerge from the dark hood, and there will be a brightness in the future as it unfolds. But I happen to be one of those Wesleyans who doesn't think that the future is knowable. I think that what God knows of the future is every possibility. And because God knows every possibility, God is never surprised by the future. But nor does God take away our ability to make decisions about the future.
Right, yeah.
And so that's just one of those theological things I throw in there. I don't know if Dickens was thinking in those terms, but that's where it's taken me.
Well, it's clearly the message that Scrooge finally gets, and that is that the future can be rewritten, because what he sees in the future is his own death as a pathetic thing that everyone was happy about.
Yeah.
And he realizes he can change that. It's not written. That's a great observation, Tim. No face, just a skeleton. That's really good. All right, man. Tim, this has been great. I love the story, and I love that how we just kind of happened along finding out that both of us love this story.
Well, I'm certainly glad that you love the story, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. Needless to say, there's so much that can be said about Dickens' works, about A Christmas Carol, that it's hard to know where to start. But it is, as he says, that he has endeavored in his ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea. And he puts humor in it. He uses heart, and I just don't know how you could tell a story as well as he's told that one.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, again, blessings on you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tim.
And by the by, if you should ever get up to Chicago, the Goodman Theater has A Christmas Carol. I went to see it last year in theater, and it was magnificent.
Annual
thing? If you're ever up this way around Christmas, absolutely. Been doing it for 36 years.
Okay.
It's very cool. Downtown Chicago.
All right, man.
Anyways, take care, you all. Good to see you.
Be good.
Good to see you too,
Take
Tim.
care of your hair,
Okay,
man.
have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I don't remember if we mentioned this at the beginning of the interview. You can get, PC, Mac, Kindle app. A Christmas Carol is free.
Yep.
And
It's
encourage you to go.
domain.
Encourage you to go and check that out and read it.
You can also get it free if you want to listen to the audio version at archive.org. They have LibriVox is there, and so you can get that as well. All right. Time for
Download of the Week.
All right, Teach, what are we looking at this week?
Well, I'm excited this week because, just of our dear friends at lifechurch.tv, Craig and Rochelle and those guys, put out a great service to the church with things like the Bible app, church metrics, open lifechurch.tv. And over this past week during Thanksgiving, they released the Bible app for kids, which is an interactive way to work with your children or grandchildren or whomever through different stories in the Bible. And it's just a fantastic little thing. And I get to demo it. So
here
let's
we
see
go.
if we can make it work out here.
Well, I get to see this demo on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, we did this in church.
Yeah.
I shared this up to the screen. There we go. Okay, so here we are in the app, and as you can see, there's currently 6 stories that are listed here. They intend to add more as time goes by, but let's start with this story right here. Through the Roof is what it's called.
Through the Roof. Full. The house was full. Jesus was in the house, teaching and healing, and everyone wanted to see him.
So it opens up with the reading of the story, but then you got these different spots here where you can interact with what's happening. So if we can get the donkey kick, we can throw some coconuts on people's heads. Just all kinds of different little things to keep kids
Some
entertained.
men had a friend who could not walk. They believed that Jesus could heal him, so they carried him to the house on a mat.
Little things to grab. Oh, look, there's some good news shoes. Isn't that exciting?
Oh,
Yeah.
Good news. Shoes.
Let's. I want to get ahead a little bit because there's my
Because
favorite
the
part in this
house
whole
was
thing.
so full, they couldn't get in. So they carried their friend up the steps to the flat roof and started tearing up the tiles.
And you can see this little bubble right here. It'll
Yeah.
ask different review questions throughout the story. So, did the men believe that Jesus could heal their friend? here?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Correct.
Very
I
good.
want to
You
know
got
what
it
the
right.
noise is if you get it wrong.
Yeah. So there we go. Tear up some roof tiles. Now here's the frame that I particularly like.
They opened a hole in the roof. Everyone in the house looked up, amazed. Then they lowered their friend into the middle of the crowd.
So the next bit of the story is going to talk about the Pharisees, but there they come walking in. Now check this out. If I click the Pharisees, we can drop some ceiling tiles on their heads. I just think that's absolutely...
Matthew's
What
into,
happens if you click on the dog?
Matthew's
There he
into the
goes.
violence part
Yeah.
of this.
So let me now try to get back here. So just a nifty
Yeah,
thing,
very
a
much so.
very cute way of putting it together, but tells different stories, and they'll continue adding to it, and it makes it interactive. This is a children's Bible for
Children.
for the day that we live in. It's just
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
love
it's a children's Bible.
And here's what I thought was cool. Not only did you demo it Sunday morning, but because it's on everyone's mind, Matthew said, go ahead, take time out, download it right now.
Yeah, it's like
got-
you're
we have
here, you're at the church
here.
Wi-Fi. You won't hurt my feelings. Everybody just go. They've got it on every app store,
Yeah.
so it's available on Amazon Kindles in their app store. It's available in the Google App Store. It's available on the iOS App Store. Windows Phone App Store, I don't think so.
Matthew said it was available to everyone. So after service, I said, "It's not available. Is it available on Windows Phone?"
I don't believe it is, but it's what a great little thing. It's just
Again, the
it's great.
organization, what they're doing in terms of putting out free resources. God bless them. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously,
Yeah.
man, and quality
Quality,
stuff.
yeah. This isn't rough. This is
pretty
very
sweet
well
stuff.
done.
Yeah.
It is. It's really well done, and
Yeah, so if you haven't downloaded it yet for your kids, grandkids, go ahead and do that.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, begin using it.
And we want to send, thank you, Paul Tillman. We already had that in the
lineup
queue,
there,
yeah.
but Paul Tillman sent us an email to remind us about that. So thanks, Paul, for thinking of us.
Yes, sir. Thank
And
you, Mr. Tillman.
obviously a great app.
All right, now it's time for They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
On a 60-minute segment last night, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos revealed a plan that would put all of the rapid shipping options to shame. A fleet of little drones
yeah.
that could carry items from a warehouse conveyor
on.
belt to a buyer's doorstep, all within half an hour. Addie Robertson, in her article, here are the 3 things Amazon needs to get its delivery drones off the ground. Source, The Verge.
And I looked And I took a look at my own PET scan and saw something disturbing that I did not talk about. If you look at the PET scan, I look just like one of those killers. Neuroscientist James Fallon talking about when he first discovered he had the brain of a psychopath. Source, NPR.
Responding to a lawsuit brought by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, FFRF, the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Wisconsin has ruled the clergy housing exclusion unconstitutional for clergy providing their own homes. Source, Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability.
This marks a significant tipping point for society today. We hear so often that rising rates of divorce is the cause of growing family instability, but these statistics prove how far this is from being the case. Harry Benson of the Marriage Foundation, on the heels of a recent report that suggests that unmarried parents are 4 times more likely to split up than those who have wed. Source, Christianity Today. All right, so let's just hop to the top here. We have I didn't give you that video.
No, that's what I was trying to motion to you about. But I think I found something here. So
Bezos was on 60 Minutes Sunday night, and he's got this idea of having drones deliver your packages, and it's really been quite a debate on tech blogs. Like, well, is this real or not? I mean, is it? If
it is real, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's watch the demonstration here.
Yeah.
So here's the distribution center.
Yeah, the article that we link you to, now watch this here. The article we link you to is someone saying they love this idea, and they're saying, okay, these are the 5 things that are going to happen for this to become a reality. Now, I have concerns.
Check this out.
Yeah.
What's this?
I have concerns that this could ever be reality, but, I mean.
Here's my question.
Here we go.
Is this included in my Prime membership? Or is this extra?
Well,
you might pay another $20 for Amazon Prime Air. I can see here in South Carolina we have a distribution center. Everybody be out with their shotguns. They'd use this as target practice.
I thought the same thing.
Here in South Carolina, that thing would come flying over. Ba-bam! Ba-bam! Ba-bam!
It would be the clay pigeon.
Or they'd set up like a duck blind right there where it's supposed to land at your door and wait for the thing to land. I got her in my sights, boys. Ba-bam!
I thought the same exact thing. Now, okay, so let's talk about this. Like, if you had the possibility of this being real, Spartanburg has a distribution center.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw in there that the idea was like 30-minute delivery.
Yeah.
So you probably have to be within, so many mile radius of a distribution center.
Yeah.
I just don't see how this could be reality, though, because of the things what Matthew said and other nefarious things, man.
Like, I can see somebody. I mean, it would.
What about a hawk who feels threatened?
Yeah, what about carrier pigeons instead of this? Yes. It's a cool idea.
I love Bezos.
And Bezos is, I mean, he's vying to be the next, like, just wild idea.
Yeah.
He's along the lines of the Virgin Galactic guy. What's his name?
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. So he's a little bit of Richard Branson, a little bit of Steve Jobs mixed together.
A little bit of Willy Wonka too.
Yeah, that's good. But I love.
Good day, sir.
I love this. I'm telling you, seeing that thing fly over that field, the video's looping back here on the computer for me again, and seeing that thing fly over that field, all I can imagine is people just sit out there.
Run in the house, quick!
Somebody grab the gun. Here comes the drone.
I got her. I shot her right down.
Someone who would shoot a drone down with a gun would be a psychopath, which leads
to our next
story. I found this story, read it. This is a neuroscience scientist who his family knows he's a neuroscientist, and his mother, they're at some event. She's like, "Hey, have you looked at our family history?"
Well, he was now you say this. He was studying psychopaths,
right?
Yeah.
And his mom's like, "Hey, we're related to Lizzie Borden," and just a list of people of certified psychopaths,
absolutely.
Serial killers that he's related to. So, totally by accident, he's done his own brain scan or whatever, and he's picks one up. He's like, "Oh yeah, this guy's a psychopath." And then he looks at the name on it. He's like,
"Oh my word! It's my PET scan."
And so, we don't have the time really to get into this, but we were talking in the pre-show. Here is a man who by science, by whatever you want to call it, his brain says he should be a certain way.
Right.
But he's not.
Ghost of Christmas Future.
So it goes to show maybe you can be born a certain way, but that doesn't mean you have to be a certain way.
That his genetics seem to say that this is a psychopath, but his behavior is other than what his genetics say. Interesting. Yeah. We link you to the story, as Heath said. We don't have a lot of time here. Real quick, if you're in ministry and you do take advantage of a housing exclusion, we've linked you to this story that the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability has put up. We have this case in western Wisconsin where they have ruled it unconstitutional. Now, you, Heath, had a conversation with someone at headquarters. They said to you...
What was said on the Wesleyan Pastor Facebook page was that more than likely this will be overturned. This is, this judge is known to be an activist when it comes to kind of things like this and has had other rulings overturned. This would not affect pastors who live in a parsonage, would not affect them. But it does raise a really good point because there are a lot of pastors, in the Wesleyan Church, when you get your district journal, you can see what a pastor's salary is. You can see what his housing allowance is. And there's been a lot of times I've seen a pastor, his salary for the year, $2,000. His housing allowance for the year, $25,000. I'm like,
right.
Well, it's kind of. And so we have to
For some people, this would impact them.
Right. But I do think,
in a major way,
whether or not this is deemed constitutional or unconstitutional, I think we've got to be above reproach in how we are handling our finances and don't do stuff.
Well, and again, if you
way.
get this exclusion, we link you to the story. Just watch it. There'll be updates to it. Real fast on the last story. Benson puts this well. He said, we hear so often that rising rates of divorce is the cause for growing family instability. But this study suggests, no, it's not. What causes the instability are unmarried parents, because what happens, they're 4 times more likely to bust up than our married parents.
Yeah.
And so we link you to this story, Christianity Today. You can also do a search on this and get more into the study as well. Real quick, Tej, let's talk about our guest next week. This is one that both of us are really excited about.
Yeah, our guests next week are the CEO of the company, SkyDog, which is a consumer router that was built from a company that was kind of in more professional grade stuff and decided to make something that would be easy for families to use. And we'll play a video at the end of the show again today to outline it and talk about it. But just a fantastic way, if you have kids in the house, to do this. And Heath, I believe you're getting one for Christmas, aren't you?
Yes, I believe that is definitely on my list.
If your kids listen to the show, they're going to find out what they got for Christmas.
Yeah,
they got a filter for these.
I'll just say this:
they're getting a filter for Christmas.
What they're getting for Christmas, the Bible app's going to be huge for them, and also this SkyDog router is going to be.
All right, and then the week after that, we'll end up 2014 with Michael Cusick. He is the author of Surfing for God. Really encourage you to tune in for that one. I think that he brings a unique perspective on this. He's a gentleman who came out of sexual addiction, and now he spends his life helping other people, and his book is about that, and so looking very much forward to that interview. All right, Brother Mulliken, where can our listeners find you?
HeathMulliken.com, and from there, follow me on Twitter. Be my Twitter friend. Talk to me on Twitter and Facebook, and in real life. It'd be great.
All right, Tej.
You can find me at MatthewTG.com.
All right, and I'm at AKC64 at both Twitter and Facebook. If you want to do any further research on any of the stories that we covered today, you can find all the links to the stories at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, why not send us an email? You can find that at thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, give us a phone call. Dial 3049-THEOLOGY. Leave us a voicemail. We may even play your comments on the air. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
And God bless us, everyone.
Good job.
Awesome.
Way to go there.
Awesome.
I'm Jeff, and this is SkyDog, a home networking solution for families. SkyDog has two parts, a wireless router and a mobile companion, and together they give you instant visibility into the internet use in your home and allow you to take control of your home network, whether you're at home or out and about. SkyDog redefines the home network, providing the power to see and improve your family's internet connectivity. And it's easy. To start, simply sign up with SkyDog. Then replace your existing router with this powerful SkyDog router. SkyDog instantly provides information about all the connected devices in your home. Now you can see who's on your home network and the signal quality of every Wi-Fi device in use. SkyDog can send you text alerts for events you care about. You can also personalize the performance, security, and internet access limits for each user. Basically, SkyDog helps you deal with your home network in a new and better way, even as your family's internet needs change. You can be away from home and get a text when your child has an unexpected friend over who signs on to the guest network. You can create a watch list of websites for SkyDog to keep track of across all of your kids' devices, and have SkyDog send an alert to them as they approach their agreed-upon limits for things like gaming or social media. And if need be, SkyDog can cut them off. SkyDog includes clever algorithms to provide broad and fast Wi-Fi coverage in your house and to optimize streaming media. But if a video streamed to your smart TV or streaming player does stutter, SkyDog can help fix the issue immediately. In fact, with SkyDog's multi-zone technology, you can easily tune, schedule, and protect your network for daytime work, evening entertainment, gaming, or firewalled guest access. SkyDog can also help you manage all the home networks in your life, like a rental property or your parents' house. Sounds great, right? Well, that's only the beginning. We're creating online communities where SkyDog users can share ideas about new features, network troubleshooting, and managing their family's connected lifestyles. Home automation devices will use SkyDog to become even smarter. At PowerCloud, we've spent years delivering software to make it easy for businesses to manage their professional networks. But we realized there was nothing comparable to address the needs of families to manage their home networks. So we set out to create SkyDog as a mobile companion to keep watch over your network, alert you to problems, sniff out their causes, and protect your family, even when you're not at home. We're incredibly excited about SkyDog. Most important, you'll be part of the SkyDog revolution, helping us to define the future of home networking. We hope you'll join us. Thanks.
fact that it was your software to try it out. And so it wasn't